Hi everyone, this is Linda, and in this video I'm putting together a week in my project life. This is week 43 for me, which is October 4th through 10th, 2021. And I'm using the October Stories by the Month kit from Ali Edwards for 2021 in putting together this spread. So I print all of my photos at home, and it turned out I had a lot that happened this week. So I knew I printed too many photos. And so I found some ways to kind of get around that and fit it into my spread. You can see there's a couple of the photos where I fit more than one photo on a canvas so that they will fit in the pocket. There's those two horizontal photos on that 3x4 card. And then I also created some 4x6 canvases with multiple photos on them, and I'm going to add a flip up. Now that I've cropped all my photos, I'm going through and picking cards from the kit. I decided to use those 3 journaling cards that kind of went together that said loving, making, and today as for the bulk of my journaling, plus that card that says October Joys, and that's going to hold journaling about my birthday, which is on October 10th. So I had typed up some journaling about what we did for my birthday to include on that card. I also selected that October 4x6 card that says October over and over again as my title card. First, because it coordinates with the journal cards I selected really well. It has that same font, so I wanted to use it on the same spread, but also because it says October. Same with that October looks like this card, because when working with these themed kits like this that say the name of the month, I try to use those cards first, because if I've already worked through all of October and I still have those cards left, they tend to linger in my stash and I forget about them. So now I'm going through the embellishments and kind of just getting a general idea of how I want to organize this spread. The kit came with these gorgeous wood veneer hearts, and I knew I wanted to use those as my primary embellishment, and I was just trying to come up with how I wanted to use them. And I decided I wanted to heat emboss and stamp on them. So the first thing I did was pull over my heat embossing powders and kind of look at the colors. And I know you can't really see the colors I'm looking through vertically here, but most of the colors that I have are from colors that I've picked out to use in December daily. So they don't really work for October, because that's really when I do the bulk of my heat embossing. So what I decided instead was to pick some of the inks from Ali Edwards that coordinated with the kit. And so I selected the yellow, which is called Honeyman. And I don't know if you know this, but you don't have to use the colored embossing powders to heat emboss. Instead, you can use the Ali Edwards inks and then use clear embossing powder to get the same effect. And that will really stretch your ability to heat emboss in a variety of colors without having to buy all the different embossing powders. You can just buy the clear one. So I'm doing this with one of these veneer hearts first to test it out. And I considered cutting this part out of the video just because I am going to mess up and I'm going to have to switch course. But I just kind of wanted to leave it in here, because that way you can kind of see what I did wrong and how I was able to kind of work around it. So my idea here was that I was going to stamp on top of these in black stays on to add additional embellishments. So for this one, I wanted to put the dates on here. But when I did it with my rolling date stamp, I think I hadn't waited for the heat embossing to really dry entirely, and the ink just didn't stick very well. So then I decided that I was going to try to emboss the date on there in black ink, and I don't even know what I was thinking, because I'd already stamped on it, and it just made this huge mess. The embossing powder stuck to the yellow, or the clear embossing powder that was on the yellow, and it didn't look great. So I knew I had to throw that out. But before I did that, I kind of just wanted to test whether I could just stamp on it and just stays on ink. And that 10 did really look great. So I decided that I was going to do the rest of the hearts in the yellow and then stamp on top of that with black stays on as kind of my coordinating embellishment across the spread. So I'm just going to work on them kind of in an assembly line, and I did all of them in yellow. And to not waste the one that I had done before, I just did it on the other side, which I would recommend not doing actually, because what ended up happening was it ended up working out, but because once you do the heat embossing, it kind of gives it like a smooth texture rather than the wood feel. It was really hard to adhere it down. The rolling adhesive wouldn't stick to it. I couldn't get a red line tape to stick to it, and it was just kind of a mess. And I ended up having to like scrape the the embossing off the back and then use rolling adhesive, and it ended up working, but it was really a pain. So I would recommend maybe not flipping these things over and just finding a way to make it work. But in the end, it ended up working and none of the supplies went to waste. So I'm happy about that, because I always do feel bad if I waste a supply because it doesn't work out the way I wanted it to. So I just am heat embossing these with my heat gun here. And again, it's the clear embossing powder on top of the Honeyman ink. And then I'm going to let them cool before I move on to my spread and working on these cards, on these hearts some more. So my general idea was that I'm going to add a little bit of embellishment on top of each one of them with black Stays-On ink. So this one I stamped the 10 from the kit to represent the 10th day, because my birthday is on 10/10. And so that's what that card is about. I also used the stamp that said October Joys on two of the hearts, on two of the hearts, to add a little bit of embellishment to a couple of the photos. One was my daughter's cross-country meet, and the other one was a photo of some food from a new restaurant that we tried. This is my stamp organization binder, and I pulled that out to choose some numbers, because when I had messed up before, it was because I tried to use my rolling date stamp on it, and I think it was just because the stamp was so thin. So I pulled out these numbers and decided to stamp the date range of 4 through 10 on this heart using these thicker numbers, because I figured that would look better than the thin stamp of the rolling date stamp, and that ended up working out well. I usually use the rolling date stamp on my title cards, but occasionally I will do something else to indicate the dates for that spread. And I decided I didn't need to put the word October on it because the card behind it just says October over and over again. So I figured that was fine. Then I pulled this star from my stash to kind of be like a hyphen between the 4 and the 10. And then I'm just kind of working around the cards and adding some embellishments. So I pulled out these label stickers from my stamp. These are from Kelly Perky. And I'm just using them to add a little bit of journaling on some of these photos from the week. And I'm going to also add 2 of those small ones onto the hearts on 2 of the photos. So on that heart, I just stamped, so that one is one of the chipboard hearts from the kit, and it's yellow with text on it. So it just kind of coordinates with my stamped hearts really well. So on these 2 labels, I decided to do the journaling before I stuck them onto the wood veneer hearts, because I wasn't sure that the surface would be smooth enough to write. And then I'm just adding some journaling here. This is about my cat hiding out in my closet during the workday. He found this bag to climb into, and he was super proud of himself. So I just kind of put that there, that story on that little sticky note. Or label, sorry. And then I added my journaling and this 10 onto this card about my birthday. I'm just kind of going through the spread now card by card and just adding details. So this one was cross-country meet. This one was about this food at this restaurant. Then that other little label I put on the photo of my daughter and my friend's daughter and their friends, and I just wrote "love these girls" on there. And then let's see, I'm just kind of working through the labels. Okay, so I got a new iPad for my birthday, and so that photo right there is a photo of my old iPad right next to my new iPad. So what I decided to do was use that label sticker to write new and old, and I'm going to put those to label them, but I just wanted to let the ink dry. So while that happens, I'm going to put together this flip up. And this was kind of the adventure that we went on my birthday. So to create these flip pockets like this, I just attach the two photos or cards together using washi tape. And you always want to attach it when the flip pocket is closed, because if you attach it when it's open, then the cards are going to be too close together and it won't lay flat. Then I added some white washi on the inside just to kind of cover the seam. And then I'm going to adhere this photo to the front on the outside of the washi tape so that the washi is not covering the photo. And that way, there's going to be this flip pocket, but the photo stands on its own. And then I added the last of the wood veneer hearts with a chipboard on top of it to be an embellishment. And then I used one of the tab stickers from the kit to kind of indicate that this is a flip pocket. When you use those tab stickers, especially like that, if you're using it as an actual tab that should be pulled on, I found that they don't really hold up over time on their own. So it's always good to either stitch it down, or like I did here, I added a little staple with my tiny attacher. And then I added those labels onto there. So the next thing I'm doing is just kind of going through and making sure I like the order of the cards. I try to put my photos and events left to right in chronological order, but more important than that, I really want to try to make the spread look balanced. So things aren't necessarily in the order that they happened during the week, as long as everything is from this week. And then on this card, I'm journaling about Saturday when we went to a birthday party for one of the kids that my daughter babysits. And that's why I have that sticky note there, because one of the kids in that photo, her parents don't want photos of her on the internet, so I'm just keeping a sticky note over it. But it's just a photo of two little kids on there. And then my daughter with a goat that was at the birthday party on the bottom part there. And so I had just journaled about that. And then on these cards, I used the loving and the making cards to just add a few details from the week of things I was loving or things that I was making this week. And then I used that is a Zig Clean Color Dot marker that it has a like round tip that is designed to kind of make a bullet point. And I use those a lot in my planner, but I really like them for scrapbooking as well, to create a bullet list, because I do create a lot of bulleted lists in my project life especially. And it's just a fun, easy way to kind of add those bullets in. And I just love the way that it looks, and the muted gray just went really well with this spread. So I use that on both of these cards, and I'm just kind of going through. I have that sticky note there, and that's where I had journaled all of the stories, or just kind of some notes of all the stories from this week that I wanted to include. And I'm pulling from that as I'm filling in these cards and adding that last bullet on here on the making card. And then the spread is pretty much done. I just need to kind of look at everything. I'm looking to see if there's any final embellishments I want to add. And then I go ahead and slip all of the cards into the pockets. That's my very last step. And, sometimes you have to trim them down and just make sure that they fit perfectly. And then once everything's in the pockets, I take a final look and make sure that I like the way that it works. I'm sorry, my head gets in the way of the camera there, but you can pretty much see what I'm doing. For the flip pocket, it just kind of sits on the outside. So the back side goes inside the pocket and the front sits on the top, and you can just lift it up and see it in the pocket. So there's my spread. Thanks for watching.